How does a player like Ben Simmons go from being the once promised future of the NBA to literally being labeled as one of the league's biggest scams? In today's video, I am going to be looking at how Ben Simmons might have just pulled off the biggest scam in NBA history. So if you don't want to miss out, don't go anywhere. Even as a rookie, Simmons already won the attention of hugely influential people who couldn't wait to see his potential impact in the NBA unfold. One of them being The Rock. He commended Simmons, saying, "This is the future of the NBA, and the NBA is in great hands with Ben." Stephen A. Smith even declared Simmons as LeBron James 2.0 or Part 2. So what happened? Let's dial down back to Simmons' college career. He had quite a spectacular run, being the first NCAA player since 1986 to average over 19.2 points, 11.8 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 2 steals, and 0.8 blocks per game. Simmons had good coordination, showcased great athleticism, defended well, blocked shots, excellent rebounding, transition plays, and change of pace, especially for a player his size. His scouting reports were flooded with LeBron and Magic Johnson comparisons, so it didn't surprise anyone that Simmons emerged as the first overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft. The Sixers signed the forward on a 5-year, $26 million rookie deal in 2019, then later signed a max rookie extension worth $177 million. But sadly, it didn't take long for the Aussie's promising career to start going down the drain. During the Sixers training camp just a couple of weeks ahead of the season, Simmons fractured the metatarsal bone in his right foot and was estimated to be out for 3 to 4 months. His situation got worse when he re-injured his foot during rehab, forcing him to miss the whole season. Philly fans were very concerned for Simmons, especially after witnessing their other star Joel Embiid sustain an injury that cost him 2 years of his career. But he reminded everyone at the start of the 2017-18 season why he was selected as the first overall pick. It took him only 4 games to record his first triple-double, and he became the only player in league history to begin a season with at least 170 points, 100 rebounds, and 80 assists in his team's first 10 games, then finished the year averaging 16 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists on 55% shooting from the field, once again fueling the LeBron comparison. At the end of the season, Simmons was named the NBA Rookie of the Year and earned NBA All-Rookie First-Team honors. He practically helped the Sixers get into the playoffs for the first time in 6 years, and it looked like the Sixers' trust the process was finally paying off. But unfortunately, he couldn't live up to the hype. In the second round of the playoffs, as it exposed one of his biggest weaknesses, his shooting. His jump shot sucked. In a game against the Celtics, who were hindering the number 25's efforts at driving in to finish at the rim, forcing him to shoot. Frustrated, Simmons became unmotivated and lost. The Sixers eventually lost the series in 5 games. And just like that, the fans turned on him instantly, as they were partly disappointed and surprised at how a point guard could be such a terrible shooter. In the following 2019 season, Simmons still couldn't pull off a jump shot. By the end of his sophomore year, the forward became an all-star with 22 triple-doubles and 0 made threes out of 17 attempts. But since the Sixers were winning, they didn't seem to care. But all that changed in the second round of the playoffs. Simmons' role quickly changed from ball-dominant point to offensive decoy, which was quite the turnaround for him. What was most annoying about his gameplay was his apparent lack of motivation or willingness to perform on the court. After a Game 7 loss, the forward came under heavy fire for not being aggressive enough on offense and his inability to shoot. He didn't even attempt a single shot in the final quarter in 5 out of the 7 games, which people concluded was a result of his lack of confidence in shooting free throws. In the next season, Simmons recorded his first ever three-pointer against a Chinese team in a preseason game, and the Sixers celebrated that shot like they just won an NBA championship. But it seems the celebration was premature because for the rest of the entire 2020 regular season, the big man only made 2 out of 7 attempted threes, but he had a rather more impressive all-around game, especially on the defensive end. Simmons led the NBA in steals and made the 3rd All-NBA team and 1st team All-Defense. But tragedy struck once again, and he got injured before the playoffs, and the Sixers didn't make it past the first round. In 2021, Simmons made his 3rd All-Star team and landed a record-high 42 points, finishing 2nd in voting for Defensive Player of the Year. Things took a more depressing turn for him when the playoffs came around. His shooting ability seemed to have worsened to an even lower low. Talk about going down the rabbit hole. In that same playoff series, we saw Simmons become the worst free throw shooter in postseason history, making only 34.2% of his shots at 15 feet. He is worse than Wilt Chamberlain at 38% and Shaq at 37.4%. Yes, he was worse than Shaq. How embarrassing it is coming from a player who formerly shot 70% from the free throw line in his first playoff series. Simmons' confidence also seemed to have gone MIA, and because he was so insecure about being fouled to shoot free throws, he stopped driving into the basket, which made his overall gameplay and usefulness on the court take a nosedive. In the second round against the Hawks, he didn't attempt a single shot in the final quarter in 5 out of 7 games. The worst of it was in Game 7, with 3 minutes to go, and the Sixers were down by 2 points. Simmons had a wide-open dunk, but then passed the ball because of his fear of getting fouled. The Sixers later lost the game, and as to be expected, the media condemned his efforts in the game. Even his teammates and coach didn't defend him. In August of 2021, Simmons decided to ask for a trade despite still having 4 years left on his contract, which was funny because his trading value had plummeted, making it hard for the Sixers to trade. The Aussie even missed training camp just to show how serious he was about leaving. Normally, the Sixers were supposed to pay Simmons $33 million, and he'd previously gotten a $16.5 million advance during the offseason. But his stunt forced the Sixers to withhold the first quarter of his paycheck, which was placed in an escrow account for fine deductions. Well, it would seem they finally hit him where it hurt because Simmons returned to the team shortly after. But it was too obvious that Simmons' spirit had left the team and was only present in body. A few days later, Coach Doc Rivers threw Simmons out of practice due to negligence to participate in certain drills. The team later suspended Simmons for the season opener, and his fines for missing training camp and team meetings rallied to about $1.4 million. The forward defended his actions, saying he was experiencing mental health problems, but nobody believed him. Maybe that's because he refused the team's given mental health resources and even refused to talk to them about it. The Sixers continued to slam the number 25 with fines for missing games, and by the end of 2021, Simmons became the most fined player in NBA history with over $10 million in fines within the space of just 6 months. Simmons' relationship with the Sixers took an even more nasty turn, and finally, on February 10, 2022, he was traded to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for James Harden in what is regarded as one of the worst trades in NBA history. Soon after his trade, Simmons was diagnosed with a herniated disc in his back, ruling him out of the regular season. He planned to make his debut on the 21st of April in a must-win Game 4 against the Celtics. But just before the opening tip, Simmons changed his mind and decided not to play due to back soreness, which caused a media uproar. The Nets later lost the game in playoff, and he underwent back surgery. Finally, at the beginning of the 2022-23 season on October 19th, Simmons showed face on the court in a game against the Pelicans. His performance in the game was immensely disappointing. His shooting wasn't any better, and he wasn't driving to the basket because of his free throw phobia. His defense was also off throughout the game. The Aussie had a glimmering moment on January 17th when he scored a triple-double as a net, posting 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists. It seemed like he was inclining again, but once again, we were wrong. In the following weeks, we saw Simmons struggle offensively, averaging 7 points on 56% shooting, 6.3 rebounds, 6.1 assists, and 1.3 steals per game. Things got so bad that Nets officials even discussed reducing his playing time. That's to show how disappointed they were at their highest paid player on the roster. In February, he had his knee drained, which took him out of the lineup. Then, on the 5th of March, Nets coach Jack Vaughn disclosed that Simmons had an inflammation in his back. But it didn't end there. On the 24th of March, the Nets coach announced that he had been diagnosed with a nerve impingement in his back and would be out indefinitely. Fans are already speculating whether Simmons' injuries were ever even real or a well-rehearsed act. Look at this clip of the forward taking himself out against Detroit after getting grazed in the face by Jaden Ivey. No wonder KD couldn't even look at him. With 1 year left on his contract, it's unclear what the future holds for Simmons in the league. Don't forget that he signed a 5-year, $177 million contract with the Sixers. With an annual salary of $36 million, that's how much the Nets are paying him. To put things in perspective, Simmons currently out-earns players like Kristaps Porzingis, Devin Booker, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, James Harden, along with several other better-performing stars. And despite missing so many games, Simmons never fails to show up for payday. It is almost as if he literally hacked his way into being one of the league's richest bench warmers. What a scam! So, is there any hope left for Ben Simmons' career in the NBA? Let me know what you think in the comments.